The following news flash is brought to you by the Lone Star Lowdown, providing your daily bulletins for the commodities market. Today in history, news updates, and the inside scoop into the tides of the alternative. Markets for Wednesday, March 9th, 2016 are currently trading with gold at $1,252.65 an ounce, silver $15.29 an ounce, Texas crude $36.50 a barrel, and Bitcoin is currently sitting at about 411 U.S. currency. Today in history, the year 1961, the first animal safely returned from space after completing one full orbit around the Earth in Sputnik 9. A doggy named Chernushka, or Blackie, returned from the heavens. Today in history. In recent news, Tayrod Pugh, a U.S. Air Force veteran, was found guilty today of attempting to join the Islamic State. After a week-long trial at a Brooklyn federal court, a jury found Tayrod guilty of attempting to provide material support to ISIS and guilty of obstruction for destroying 4 e-storage drives after his detention in Turkey. Pugh is set to be sentenced in September. Pugh's defense lawyer is arguing that all he did was express repugnant views about the Islamic State on Facebook and watch dozens of the group's recruitment videos, and that he was only traveling to Turkey to find work, not to become a jihadist. However, prosecutors are presenting a letter he apparently drafted to his Egyptian wife, which was found on his laptop, in which he vowed to fight for Islam. When detained in Istanbul, he apparently had a black face mask, a map depicting Islamic State's stronghold in Syria, and a chart of the border crossings between Turkey and Syria. Pugh served as an avionics specialist in the Air Force from 1986 to 1990, and later worked as an Army contractor in Iraq from 2009 to 2010. Toyota recently showed off a new device that could dramatically assist the visually impaired to better navigate their surroundings. Called Project Blade, an informational device to bridge the gap between a cane or a guide dog. Toyota has been testing various prototypes of the wearable device with individuals from the visually impaired community for the past 3 years, and though the details of the project were released this week, no official timeline has been set for the release. The automaker plans incorporating mapping, object identification, and facial mapping technologies into Blade in the future. Doug Moore, manager of Partner Robotics at Toyota, told ABC that Toyota is thinking about quality of life for individuals and how to impact society. The Lone Star Lowdown is currently looking to fill some ad space. If you have a product or service you'd like to advertise with us, feel free to give me a call at 210-363-2257. This is Rick Rohde with your Lowdown for March 9th, 2016.
No one had a bad trip. It was all very good. No one had a bad trip. It was all very good. Nope. It was all very good.
I walk when they say run, and I run when they shoot me up. No, they won't let me out of the asylum. No, they won't let me out of the asylum. I've got to get up, 'cause here they come. It's not so easy to get up for some. I'm broken and I'm insane.
No one had a bad trip.
If you saw what
And good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're listening to us across the country here on the Logos Radio Network. This is Be Brave Radio, and for the next 3 hours on this Saturday, March 12th, 2016, we are going to be coming to you live from Studio Underground at Brave New Books. I'm Leland Freeman. I'm joined by Elizabeth Egan Everett and John Bush, and as usual, we have one hell of a show to bring you each and every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central Time. Our guests coming up in the second hour are Adam Brewer and Dave Pedersen with Heart of Texas Music Fest, otherwise known as Texas Rock Fest. But before we get to our guests, we will talk about the week that was and how Austin, Texas survived Obama Apocalypse Part 1, South by Southwest edition.
Barry, I love Barry.
Ugh.
Everybody in the taco. He went to visit Torchy's Tacos, which is a great Austin icon, except they have the 30-06 and 30-7 signs.
They have the 6 signs now? I know they did the 7 signs, but they have the 6 signs now?
I just pulled that out of my rear end. The 7 signs, You know what? They have great tacos, but I think that's kind of lame.
Well, let's see. Tacos or Nancy Reagan's funeral? Let's see. Tacos, I guess.
I ordered a Democrat. And I also ordered a Republican and independent. That way I could show I'm bipartisan.
Yeah, right.
No, that was a total narc move. He shows up on the first day of our, South by Southwest has just begun, and that's a whole subject unto itself. But you've got the worst kind of traffic you can imagine. Then it rains, and then we have Obama showing up, who basically shuts down our streets some more. And that's such a narcissistic move on his point. Come on.
And it's also standard operating procedure whenever a president is in town to have a temporary flight restriction of 30 miles.
Oh, my goodness.
So you have all these celebrities that are wanting to fly in for South by Southwest. They're going to be turned away with their little private planes if they're flying under Part 91, which is non-commercial. Part 130, I know it's going a little bit too detailed.
That's a Lelandism. Yes.
There's also Part 135, which is commercial, which would be charter, which is largely restricted, and then you have even the airlines are affected, which is Part 121. Whenever the President of the United States, a.k.a. the POTUS, is at the airport, all operations have to stand down. That includes loading and unloading the planes.
Okay, but here's the other little added issue. He could have come in here by helicopter. He could have done this in a very, very different way. When he's in other countries and what have you, he doesn't cause such an issue. This is deliberately, and Joan said it so perfectly the other day, this is rubbing our noses in it. He could just literally jump in a helicopter and not create all this, look at me.
But we still would have complained.
Please, kid. Oh, look, I'll complain about that guy till the cows come home. He's probably one of the creepiest POTUSes. Well, no, they're all creepy at the end of the day, aren't they? But
he's got that false demagogue kind of thing. He's worse because he's like a snake oil salesman because people think that he's good.
They worship him.
I don't think they think. There's a smaller minority that think it now.
I'll try, and that keynote of his at South by Southwest, which I only was able to watch about 10 minutes. I'll get to that in about a second. But yeah, exactly.
So skeezy.
With the presidential motorcade, not only do they have the route they take, but they also close off several alternate routes, and they can change it at will. So you had South First, you probably had South Congress, you probably had I-35, you probably had MOPAC, completely closed off. You had every bridge crossing Town Lake, I refuse to call it Ladybird Lake, closed off.
This guy's old school.
Closed off because he had first that keynote at the Long Center. Then he had a fundraiser at the Music Hall.
What is it? And he's thanking himself in the third person now. He's like, thanks, Obama. And it's like, oh my, and then he's like, I am not to blame for any of this derision. It's not my fault. It's like, yes, it is.
Well, he also made fun of libertarians. He's like, oh, well, you anti-government libertarians. It's like, when you check the weather, there's a government satellite there. It's like, well, actually,
he said libertarian?
He actually made fun of libertarians when he
said the L word.
But he goes like, well, who's going to build the roads and who's going to put the weather satellites up? I'm going like, wait a minute.
It's actually human beings that build the roads.
Wait a minute here. First of all,
you didn't build those roads. You didn't build those roads.
A lot of satellites were put up by the private company AccuWeather, not the National Weather Service. So a lot of these satellites and a lot of these weather reports come from AccuWeather, which is a private company.
I wonder why he addressed libertarians in the first place.
Well,
because we see him for who he is.
Yeah,
the other thing too is he's confusing libertarians with anti-government with anarchists, agorists. People that truly do want to live off the grid because he's like, oh, you libertarians, you check the weather. It's like, who's doing the roads? I'm like, well, that's local government. It's not the federal government. Then he also patted himself on the back with Obamacare. He's like, well, I got all the best and brightest from Austin and Silicon Valley to have a technical SWAT team. He called it a computer SWAT team? He used the term SWAT team in it, software SWAT team, to fix Obamacare. The website in 4 months. I go, wait a minute, you spent
4 months?
You spent billions on this website that was broken before it launched. Then you had to bring in people to bail you out. I only sat through about 10 minutes or 30 minutes of in typical government. It was a 90-minute YouTube video, and the first 50 minutes was just a blank screen.
Very, very, very. Now, regarding the traffic, I drove in from out of town because we're staying 45 minutes south of Austin right now in our converted school bus in a really cool campground. And I purposefully took 130 all the way up to 969, which turns into MLK.
Bankrupt 130.
Because I heard about that. Because I thought there was going to be traffic. I might be responsible for bankrupting them.
It's your
I've never
fault.
paid any of the tolls. And they just rack up and rack up. It's like hundreds of dollars. To hell with them. But there was like no traffic at all. In fact, there was less traffic than normal Friday. And it's because Mayor Steve Adler, his grace, his honor, he went on and addressed the city and encouraged people to stay home and to work from home. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of large employers told people that they have the day off.
He
just buys into the whole emperors in town, shut the city down garbage.
Had the best day yesterday, actually. And it was also to do with the rain, and mind you, I'm loving the rain. I mean, because LA was always just like chemtrail city, so there was nothing ever, just blazing sun. But
don't get used to it.
Oh yeah, no, I know. But anyway, that's another discussion for another time. But let me tell you, I had the best day yesterday because there was basically no one on the road. So because of the rain, because of
lane to lane,
and I was like
Kramer.
I was like, thanks Obama, and South by Southwest, people were standing staying home, and that was really nice.
They remember what happened the last time when Rob Rodriguez brought Obama here for. So they look the other way.
Robert Rodriguez.
So the Justice Department looks the other way for the 9 figures that he's basically ripped everybody off on. 9 figures, which was $250 million of.
Don't you have a Robert Rodriguez poster in your bedroom?
Probably.
I'd rather have a photo of the boobs lady, and that's not going to happen.
Oh, you did open carry. That's a whole other conversation. Yeah.
We'll get to that in a minute, but let's finish up with this whole
I can't believe
thing.
People still worship him. Those women and men it was mostly women, which was strange. In the Torchy's Tacos, they're like they've seen Jesus Christ, and it's just insane. I can't believe people are still like that with this guy. They're just so bought in because he can do anything.
It's a PR move. Like literally, they are buying into the PR move, and what he's doing is that he's creating political yes ladders, which means that he will go in to continue to have that herd's choice and opinions and decisions so that he has power down the road, whether he's like for Trump or for Cruz or for, Clinton or whatever. The way that he is will still hold and carry weight, So he'll show up then at Torchy's Tacos and literally be like, look at me. I care about you guys. I do.
I eat the food you guys eat.
It's such a lie.
Don't mind the Secret Service with guns that are staring you down.
You can't even go out onto your balcony when he comes through town.
The 360 condominiums.
Well, so much for going out and having
Who
a nice.
enforces that?
They probably get a bill.
The landlord.
Do they get a bill saying you were seen out on your balcony enjoying a glass of wine?
They probably have snipers on other roofs, Secret Service snipers,
aiming their targets on you.
God, that's insane. It's like a foreign dignitary. It is a foreign dignitary from occupied Texas, Washington D.C., the foreign enemy.
And he just wants to be cool because he wants to show up to South by Southwest, which is like the uber cool or seemingly cool event that basically feeds on everybody's hopes and dreams. There's something like 3,000 bands that play here. It's this glut of an echo chamber where everyone comes here to be like, you're so talented. It's like, okay, so what? Well, I lived that. I lived that for 20 years.
And then the fact that South by Southwest has the gall to call themselves a private event when they get subsidies out the ass from the city, and the fact that they also go out of their way to make it hard for I'm not going to use the term competing, but other events, independent events that happen simultaneously.
Like Brave New Books, Alt South by Southwest, Weird Wednesday coming up on Wednesday the 16th. Check it out. Lots of hip hop acts.
Or
3
even
to 11.
Or even Heart of Texas Music Fest, which I've had Adam on my other show about your health last year, and so we're going to have him on this year. That he's going to talk about all the steps he had to take, which is a year-long process in order to have Heart of Texas Music Fest, aka Rock Fest, go on every year.
To be creative, so much about that.
You got to be safe. Now, Barry, in his address, I didn't know what the purpose of his talk was. I didn't listen to it, but I read an article about it, and apparently he was addressing the encryption fiasco that's going on, which is so amazing that Apple is just standing toe-to-toe with the FBI. Kudos to Apple. I always thought Android was more privacy-oriented, which it may be, but Apple's taking a serious stand and putting their neck on the line.
Well, because they know nobody will buy their products if they basically bend over backwards. Yeah. It's a business decision. And that's the other thing Obama said. It's like, oh, you need the government to step in for consumer advocacy. It's like, no, it's called the market.
Yeah, it's the market. It works.
If the product is defective, guess what? I'm not going to buy the product anymore.
Yeah, but didn't McAfee basically prove that all this is just fluff and blunder and like this, the apples are crackable. You can get into them. It's not, this is just to get out and make it more of an issue publicly.
We need to interview McAfee, John McAfee.
That'd be awesome.
He's amazing. We have to probably get some heroin to shoot himself up during on air, but.
Oh, dude.
Now we're talking.
But yeah.
You can get yours at Brave New Books. Just kidding.
But the thing is that Obama goes he goes, oh, well, let's take a middle ground with this encryption. It's like, there's no middle ground. It's either you give them the backdoor keys or you don't.
It's privacy or tyranny.
Actually, I would love to have Jonathan Rumian on to basically rip Obama a new a-hole, because we can't use the word ass and say the word hole.
You just did.
Leland Freeman, ladies and gentlemen.
No, we can use the word ass, and you can use the word, and exactly. You can describe it like that, but you can't combine the two without a pause.
Okay, next subject.
We're coming up on a break here.
Well, the next subject is the Logos Radio Network. Our
open carry. You have to talk about open carry.
We will get to that, but we got a few seconds before
we're skipping the break and bringing
That's right. Skip the break. Let's do it.
But please go to LogosRadioNetwork.com for their yearly fundraiser. Prizes are from Central Texas Gunworks, My Magic Mud, and All About Vapor. I'll get to that after this quick break from our sponsors. This is Be Brave Radio. Stick with us.
Be Brave. Oh, yeah. We'll be right back.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
And welcome back to Be Brave Radio here on the Logos Radio Network on this March 12th, 2016. And if you would like to sponsor free speech radio networks such as Logos Radio Network, please head on over to logosradionetwork.com. Helps keeps the light on. It's now going to March 17th. Prizes are from Central Texas Gunworks. You have a Spikes Skull lower receiver and a Taurus curve, as well as My Magic Mud and All About Vapor. Every $25 donation gets you entered into the drawing for these prizes. I don't believe there is a limit, so the more you donate, the better chances you have to win. And excuse me, Be Brave Radio. Good morning. I need my mocha frappuccino. Be Brave Radio is brought to you by Brave New Books, Hill Country Home Improvement, Nature's Pure Organics, Burke Superfoods, as well as Cabo Bob's. And John, do you want to talk a little bit about Cabo Bob's burritos?
Well, first of all, Obama should have gone there instead of Torchy's.
No, he shouldn't have, because he should, because we could drop an anvil on his head. Just kidding.
Yeah, Cabo Bob's. Hey, Secret Service, we're talking to you. Cabo Bob's, great natural burritos, non-GMO corn tortilla chips, not a hint of high fructose corn syrup. I was just there yesterday afternoon and enjoyed myself a number 8 Bob's Burrito Bowl. Awesome Baja chicken, just amazing taste. And the cool thing about that place is there's not signs on the entrance banning the open carry or concealed carry.
Wow, okay.
And now one contention I have with Don Brinkman, the owner of Cabo Bob's, who's sponsoring the show, and who sponsored the Liberty Beat literally for like a year. The entire time, he consistently sponsored the Liberty Beat. So we're so grateful for his support of this network, of the Liberty Beat, of the work we're doing here at Brave New Books. He gives a 50% off discount to law enforcement. Now, with this audience, I don't know if we're shooting ourselves in the foot on the sponsorship, but I will say it's a good strategic move on his behalf, because his restaurants are probably the safest ones in town. And if anybody tries to pull one over on that place, chances are there's going to be an officer in the actual
or
the restaurant.
or a law-abiding LTC carrier.
Yeah, well, that's wise.
Kudos to Don Brinkman. Really
Nice
great
business.
place. He's involved in the community. And I can appreciate how he's kind of playing both sides of the aisle. He's a staunch libertarian. You could proudly say he's anti-government, but he does have a reverence for law enforcement, so he's kind of playing both sides of the aisle, and I respect the guy and appreciate what he's doing. So if you support our program, if you support Logos Radio Network, then go check out Cabo Bob's and give him some business, and you'll get yourself a really nice, healthy burrito in the process.
And they cook the tortillas right in front of you, and the sodas are sweetened with sugar.
Oh, my God, they have the best sweet mint tea. It's amazing.
Oh, wow.
I got to catch myself because
Is it
I'll
real mint?
caffeined out. Let's just say it is. I don't know. Probably. I don't know.
That's awesome.
It's really damn good. It's probably the best tea in town.
So what were you saying about Obama?
Oh, God. I mean, what?
I love him.
I love him. No, I mean, he's such a perfect, Manchurian candidate in so many ways, so charismatic. He's exactly, he's perfect for POTUS, really. But in reality, he's so deeply owned by the globalists, and he's obviously not for America. He's much more for, the George Soroses who back and fund him, and the Phoenix Group and all these, it's sort of shadowy elite that Newt Gingrich, suggested back about the secret societies and what have you.
Well, if you look at what his rhetoric has been about his post-presidency, most post-presidents leave Washington. They ride out into the sunset. They retire.
No, he's going to stay.
He's going to stay because he wants to be
power.
Well, from my understanding, is that he wants to be ambassador to the United Nations and eventually Secretary General of the United Nations.
Barry?
What a surprise! No, but look,
and that adds credence to the Democratic brokered convention where they are going to shoehorn Biden into this thing.
Okay, but what I wanted to explain to help people to understand the dynamic of why Obama is showing up on the first day of South by Southwest and doing what he's doing is because it gives us a little bit of an insight into his character, which is obviously NPD, or narcissistic personality disorder. Now, it's helpful to understand.
It's a requirement to be president.
I think it is. I think everybody has to be a little bit, megalomaniac, and there's pluses and minuses. There's actually a book, believe it or not, which kind of blows my mind, called The Wisdom of the Psychopath, and it points out how there's all these saints and people from history that actually showed up and was pointing out the silver lining. Now, mind you, there's also hundreds of books as to why being narcissistic and psychopathic is a bad thing. I mean, I've been fascinated with personality disorders and researching social dynamics and mindsets and the way the mind thinks my whole life. And there's this thing about narcissists where they look forever for outside supply to receive some sort of validation. It's like this endless black hole that they never receive enough. So they always have to go out. They're seen as sort of our human form of being a vampire. So Obama, as he goes out, he's not only receiving supply by showing up and being worshipped as like the head big figure of South by Southwest, is the ringleader and the high priest per se, but also he's receiving this validation and supply from the haters as well. Narcissists, thanks, Leland. But narcissists literally receive the same kind of voltage and charge from both sides of either love or hate. They will receive it. And so he's enjoying the fact that we're all kind of hating on him right now. That's just as powerful and as lovely to him as the ones who are, worshiping him and showing the selfies that they took at Torchy's, from yesterday.
Message from the dark side.
Oh, he's a total wannabe Sith. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so he goes from the Long Center to the music hall to some fundraiser in this house in Terrytown. Let's just think about this. People that live in Terrytown have to be multimillionaires. Why would they support a government that is just completely parasitic and the top of the head of the government, basically putting out all these policies such as like Obamacare, for example? I mean, healthcare has gone up in price, more or less.
Well, if and for him to have the gall to even talk about it right now when people are literally paying through the nose prices that they've never seen before just for paying for, what is it, that fee that they're having to pay right now?
The individual mandate.
The Affordable Care Act, literally they're getting charged for insurance that they actually didn't have because they went against it. And suddenly,
they just couldn't afford it.
That's absolute thievery. That's absolute thievery right there. And so for him to have the gall to talk,
thievery.
Well, the fact that you have John Roberts going against the Constitution because he was compromised. He was originally going to go with the Constitution. They went against the Constitution. And who gave us John Roberts? Ted Cruz.
Oh, Dan, don't get me started. Weren't you going to talk about making sure that people get informed about the Bush stuff and Bush's connection to Ted Cruz? I think didn't Roger Stone he did put out that book, and we want to make sure that
4 books.
Well, I think people, if they really want to understand Ted Cruz right now, who definitely is a Bush by any other name, here he is coming out as anti-establishment right now, but he really isn't. I mean, who did he just appoint as his finance manager? But Neil Bush, who defrauded U.S. taxpayers out of something like $1.5 billion in the savings and loan scam. This guy is definitely
his
in bed
wife
with the Bushes.
is a Goldman Sachs vice president, and then they had that hidden $500,000 loan, which actually I think Roger said was $1 million loan, actually.
Well, and they're in talks with Jeb Bush right now. So, I mean, they call themselves the first Bush marriage for Heidi and Cruz. And so, now it makes more sense as to why Daddy Bush and Mommy Bush showed up at the debate the other day when Jeb had dropped out, because
checking on their horse.
They are looking on their horse. And so, anyway, Roger... we have several books of Rogers here at the store. We've got the Jeb and the Bush
Crime Family as
book.
well as the Clinton's War on Women that Robert Morocco wrote with Roger.
Yeah, come on down to Brave New Books. We have dozens of copies of both of these books left over from our big book signing. And we've had Roger Stone on the show. And if you notice, Roger Stone, thanks to the big boost he got from being on our show, is now all over media.
Oh, it's us, is it?
Right.
Yeah, that's what that is.
He's all over media and international press, all sorts of stuff. Yeah. He's so great and generous, and we're so grateful that he comes down and graces us with his presence. But we have a ton of those books, and I just want to extend a special offer for those of you that are listening to the show, or if you pick up the archive. If you mention today's show, just say, hey, I heard Be Brave Radio, that I could get 10% off on either one of the books. So mention the show, and you can get 10% off on Jeb and the Bush Crime Family, or 10% off on the Clintons' War on Women. And if you come down quick, we still have maybe 2 or 3 copies of Jeb that are signed by the man himself, Roger Stone. So come on down to Brave New Books, 1904 Guadalupe Street. Check out these books, support the cause, help us keep the lights on, and help us continue to bring you awesome authors and thinkers and activists like Roger Stone and Jim Mars and all the other great people that we bring.
We had Sheriff Mack in the past.
Sheriff Mack, that came out of the blue.
Yeah, no, we had Sheriff Mack in the past at the bookstore, as well as even Bobby Seale.
Bobby Seale, that was a big deal. Hey, that rhymed. So come on down to Brave New Books. Mention this show here. Mention Be Brave Radio. Get 10% off on the Clintons' War on Women and Bush and the Crime Family. We'll be right back after this short break.
See you all real soon.
When an orangutan refuses to go to sleep, what's a frazzled zookeeper to do? I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, back to tell you what one employee at a zoo in Poland does to cut out the monkey business at bedtime. Next.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This message is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
Michael Kraus, a 36-year-old zookeeper in Poland, had his hands full. 2 adult orangutans were driving him ape by refusing to go to sleep at night. If he gave them a fruit snack, they'd throw it around. If he tried wearing them out with play, they just got hyper. So Kraus tried reading them bedtime stories, and it worked like a lullaby. The apes got a kick out of cookbooks, especially when Kraus acted out the cooking movement. One of the apes is a big fan of German fiction, too, while the other prefers English literature. His favorite book, Pride and Prejudice. Perhaps it's time to face the fact that orangutans love Jane Austen. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht for StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine.
You're listening to the Logos Radio Network at logosradionetwork.com.
And welcome back to Be Brave Radio on this Saturday, March 12th, 2016. I'm Leland Freeman.
I'm Elizabeth Egan Everett.
John Bush.
And we were talking about Obama's visit to Austin yesterday, and it was another event that transpired. That was Open Carry Texas had the first day of, I believe it was going to be 10 days of educational open carry.
10 days, wow.
There were five of us that partook in the open carry. Myself, CJ Grisham, who's a founder of Open Carry Texas, Richard Briscoe, who's the legislative director, Tom Park, as well as one of the members, she goes by Candy. And so we were all open carrying modern handguns, except CJ, he was still carrying a black powder.
Wait, he refuses to get the license?
No, he has a long story about that. He actually has an Arizona license, but he still carries his modern handgun from time to time, but he wanted to be a little bit different than everybody else. And there was a little bit of controversy surrounding the carry, not during the carry itself. Well, except the boobs lady. We'll get to that in a second. But some, it's idiot at best, provocateur at worst, posted on the OCT page.
Oh, yeah.
The day before. It's like, oh yeah, if you see the POTUS, you got a good shot at him. And then,
whoa.
And so Richard immediately deleted that. And the other admins tried to figure out who this guy was. They booted him. And it was picked up by a news agency, and when I clicked on,
screenshotted it right away.
And when I took when they had a link to his profile, but when I clicked on the link, the profile was taken down. So it was either a provocateur of a fake account.
They probably work with Moms Demand Action or one of those groups. It's a classic false flag move. It's almost as bad as the guy on that radio show just today that said we should drop an anvil on his head.
Which is more cartoony, an anvil or a piano?
Leland.
Did I just see Farmville on your little tablet there?
No, that was Woody Woodpecker.
So back to the fact of open carry and the shenanigans afoot.
There was a lot more journalists there than there were open carry people. And then the boobs lady showed up. And
man.
The boobs lady.
Wait, real quick. Let's finish off that. I think there was a lot more to that comment, though, right? The Secret Service is investigating it. All sorts of anti-gun press picked up on it. And it's actually pretty good deal.
Time Magazine, Gawker, that was saying, we were going to crash Obama's speech, which was not the case at all. In fact, we purposely avoided all areas that he was going to be at. In fact, one of the journalists, which I think might have been embedded Secret Service, goes like, are you guys going to the music hall? And we're like, I don't think so. And our route was from the Capitol down Congress to 2nd Street to the convention center to 6th Street, where we had lunch at Rapolo's because they're open carry friendly, and then back to the Capitol, and then we departed because it was actually starting to rain.
I think it's important for activists to recognize this phenomenon of either agent provocateurs or just morons coming in and saying things that are completely inflammatory and that are calling for violence. And as an organizer myself for many years, you have to nip that kind of stuff in the butt, and you have to make sure that you represent yourself with the utmost integrity, and you always make it absolutely clear that your movement, your organization, the groups that you're affiliated with are all for peaceful change and nonviolent resistance. And that being said, I also encourage people to make it clear that the doctrine of non-resistance and just bowing down and being slaughtered is not a noble path either. But if you hold yourself and you always make it clear and you repeatedly let people know that your tactics are peaceful, nonviolent resistance, whenever a provocateur comes up and says something violent, then it can be completely dismissed and written off. Now, a critique of a group that I actually helped to found, Peaceful Streets Project, the rhetoric coming out of that group and the leaders of that group is so close to being nasty and vitriol that if someone does provocateur and say something nasty and violent, it doesn't sound all that different from the normal rhetoric coming out. Now, maybe a controversial position. I actually lost some good friends over my position with Peaceful Streets Project and distancing myself, but I always pride myself in just being as cheerful and happy and loving and positive and compassionate about it. Because if you're not, then it makes it easier for these people to provocateur you, and it makes it stand out less. So like with a group like Texans for Accountable Government, if someone comes along on a tag page and says, yeah, we should do A, B, and C violent action against the government, it's going to just completely be out of left field. Anybody that follows tag or is a member of tag will know that that was not an official tag statement. Tag doesn't support that. But if it's a group that's already hurling nasty comments and talking about F this and F that and good riddance to these cops that die and so on and so forth, and then someone comes out and says something nasty, it may not be as easy to distinguish itself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look at the three main open carry groups, Open Carry Texas, Lone Star Gun Rights, and Texas Carry, we're always very, very, very diplomatic. In fact, a lot of us have a very good sense of humor. Like CJ was cracking jokes half the time, and everyone's just like, oh, wow, you guys are just ordinary folks. In fact, if it wasn't for the boobs lady, it probably would have been, no one wouldn't have even noticed us open carrying.
Well, look at the other groups like, not to get controversial or stir the pot, but there's other groups like Come and Take It Texas or Don't Comply.
Or Open Carry Tarrant County.
And a lot of their languages, the rhetoric is pretty nasty. So if someone comes and engages in agent provocateurism, it's going to be harder to discern that is something that doesn't belong.
Well, and then they go against, the very thing that they stood for. They're actually doing harm against that very point of what they're trying to achieve, In many ways, I think the boob lady is a perfect example where she's actually doing harm towards what it is that she's standing for.
She was screaming at kids. It was like there was a school group going into the Capitol, and she was screaming, no, more boobs, less guns, and then screaming.
Give us some background. Who's this boob lady? What's the story with this?
Yeah,
she's been showing up at the open carry walks for quite a while now, and she goes, "I'm not giving my name out because I'm afraid to get shot by these guys. More boobs, less guns."
And her breasts are exposed,
but even Robert Morrow would disapprove of these breasts. I mean, this woman she's just.
But she's actually harming the point that she's trying to prove.
She gave us sympathy votes. In fact, after I believe it was APD asked her to leave, CJ goes up to a couple officers and goes like, "So, any complaints on us?" And they go like, "Well, not really. Just a couple calls of curiosity about the law, but there was a ton of complaints about the boobs lady." And the interesting thing is, though, CJ is a libertarian through and through, so he goes like, "I support the First Amendment. I support her right to have a protest." At the same token, the fact that she was probably being called out on disturbing the peace and disorderly conduct because just the way she was presenting herself.
Well, I literally met her accidentally, unfortunately, one of my first days I moved here a couple of years ago to Austin. It was very bizarre for me because my first outing, trying to be social and what have you and see what Austin had to offer as a newcomer, I went to the Pistachio Festival. I went wandering down 6th Street, just wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and being like, wow, I like being in Austin. And suddenly there's this lady behind me screaming and shouting and being shrill with her boobs out and I just couldn't get away fast enough because she weirded me out on such an intense level. Look, if you want to let it loose and be free and show your chest and whatever, hey, whatever, go for it. But don't be loud and shrill and obnoxious and in people's faces because you know what? That's not how you get your message across.
Yeah, but we contrast it with Open Carry Texas Walk or even the dildo lady that actually came late into the walk. We met her actually outside the convention center, and she was very polite, and she's actually kind of came around and kind of supported open carry.
Nice.
But that's okay. I mean, that's awesome.
Grow the crowd. My wife, my lovely wife, Catherine Bleich, actually, we were at the Capitol support our good friend Michael German. I was doing a Texans Against Chemtrails. They go down with his two cute kids and hand out flyers about chemtrails. And the open carry march just so happened to come by, and the boobs lady was there. And so my wife's all like, "Oh, the boobs lady!" And she starts chanting, "More boobs, more guns. Why can't we have both?"
Yeah, both. Let's have
she ended up running the lady off by kind of throwing it back.
There was actually a lot of people going like, "Why can't we have more boobs and
more
guns?"
Boobs, more guns, more dildos.
So we need a lady who's going to have her boobs out, and yet will also open carry.
We need a counter-breasted lady.
That's right.
Yes.
Who goes to the gym, who works out, who's all fit and healthy, and there she is open carrying.
We should try to get Robert Moore to pull out his Rolodex and find some big-breasted women that are
I bet
okay
he probably knows a few.
Dildos, guns, boobs.
All good.
I'm in.
And on that note, it's about being brave on Be Brave Radio, right? Let's
be brave, be bold.
And boobs, and being brave.
Boobs make for good radio.
Brought to you by Cabo Bob's.
Oh my gosh.
Cabo Bob's approved.
I'm sure they love that.
That's right. It's not mutually exclusive, folks. And I love the libertarian position. It's like, let's have homosexual marriages, smoking pot, carrying guns, pulling your breasts out.
And we will pick that up right after this.
As long as it doesn't harm anyone.
And we'll pick this up at this short break here on the Logos Radio Network. Stay tuned.
Everyone's just going crazy these days. It's like the end of the world.
If you make a promise to yourself, you have to keep it no matter what.
Some people believe in God, I believe in music. You know, some people pray, I turn up the radio.
Music makes the world go round, and for me, if it wasn't around right now, I wouldn't be around right now. Music is everything to me. That's all I can say.
Welcome back to Be Brave Radio on this March 12th, 2016. I'm Leland Freeman.
I'm Elizabeth Egan Everett.
Barack Obama.
Who let you in there?
Hey, go away. We have some tacos down the hall for you.
I already had my tacos at Torchy's Tacos. Did you ever notice he has this weird sound that he does, like almost like he's a snake?
It's a lilt. It's like how Hillary Clinton will put on a different accent depending on where she is. Barack will put on this sort of smarmy little swagger lilt. The way he speaks to people.
I can't believe how much power our overlords have above us.
People fall for it.
Not good.
Yeah, no, I know. So we were talking about all the crazy stuff that's been happening over the last week. There's so much to get to. I would like to have a little mention or a little bow of our heads, just for a millisecond at least, for understanding that yesterday was the 5-year anniversary of, the March 11th Fukushima event. And it is still going on. Just because you don't see it in the mainstream news does not mean that there's 300,000 tons of radioactive water going out through that plant. We know at least there were 2 meltdowns at the plant. In fact, some say more. And, forget the normal radiation. We've also got the cesium-137 and the MOX plutonium. And, not even Fukushima, but we've got the San Onofre situation. We've got the plant in New York. Actually, that's an issue right now. I remember when I was sitting out on the West Coast when I was in LA, sitting with my ex, and we were finishing up for the night, and we were there on the beach. And as we're getting up to leave, he looks out at the ocean. And he says, "Well, no tsunamis tonight." And literally 2 hours later, Fukushima happened, and we had the tsunamis and everything. It was
well. You're also looking at these plants. They were all designed in the early 70s and probably built no later than the late 80s, such as the South Texas nuclear plant. And so you're having just these things mechanically wear out over time. And the fact that they're
falling apart.
The fact that the Nuclear Regulatory Agency, the NRC, just keeps extending their operational lifespan. They keep extending their operational licenses, even though they're literally wearing out.
So how would you deal with this in a genuinely free society, absent government regulation? Because it sounds like this technology, while it has its benefits, at the end of the day, it seems like it's pretty piss poor. So somebody would say, well, let's just ban it. Governments or some international body could even try to push it.
In a free market society, we never would have used uranium reactors. We would have used thorium reactors for several.
Why?
Thorium,
if it's cheaper, then the market may have tried to cut costs.
It is cheaper. Henry Kissinger killed thorium reactors back in the 70s.
That's the reason.
That's the reason why thorium. Let's look at thorium. Thorium reactors have very little harmful radiation.
Leave it to Leland to know all this little intricacies.
Of course he does. I love him.
So thorium reactors have very little in the way of harmful radiation output. They're relatively safe to have. You could probably have one in this room without any major health issues. Just put a little bit of lead shielding around it. It's fine. They also fuel also lasts several.
Solar things.
The useful life of the fuel lasts several hundred years longer than uranium. See, the problem with uranium reactors is that the fuel only lasts X amount of years to get useful energy out of them, but then you still have to worry about them decaying for several hundred years, releasing radiation after the fact, and you have to keep them in cooling ponds. You really don't have to worry about that with thorium reactors.
Well, and then you've got the MOX plutonium, which is thousands of years, and we're making all these dead zones. We're killing all the sea life, And what's the deal? Here's, talk about conspiracy theory. Why are all these plants built deliberately either on or near fault lines? I mean, what? What's the wisdom there, guys?
Well, here's the thing with thorium reactors. They don't have to be these big, huge plants. They could be something.
Still on thorium.
They can literally be the size of what they portrayed in the Back to the Future series with Mr. Fusion. Personal nuclear reactors that have fuel that lasts 100 years. That's true energy independence. And if you're truly energy independent, you don't have to have this big command control thing rule your lives. You basically can travel anywhere, do anything, not to worry about paying utilities, paying for fuel, because you have your little thorium reactor powering everything for your entire lifespan. They didn't want that because they didn't want to lose control over the people.
You can't have a sovereign society that way, Leland. Come on, you know better. It's like who killed the electric car.
Exactly.
There's way too much ownership in things that are killing us.
Or all Tesla's patents disappearing.
It's all about control. I think at the end of the day, it's more about control than it is about money, because a lot of these people that are at the heights of the government and of these massive institutions, they're already filthy wealthy and billionaires, and people that control the Federal Reserve can create money out of thin air. They really want to control people and move away from independence, which is why one of the most revolutionary things you can do is get off the grid, is start taking care of yourself, is take your health into your own hands. Like, that's the stuff we were talking about a couple shows ago, like the non-political activism. Sure, let's engage in politics. If you want to go vote, go support your candidate, try to focus on local and state stuff. Try to get people like Robert Morrow in office. But on top of that, we got to become independent, not only from the political systems, but from any centralized or coercive institution that may hold dominion over our lives. And then, and only then, can we truly opt out and just leave the archaic, coercive, corrupt system in the dust. That's my hope, at least.
Yeah, even if it means baby steps every day, being great in small things. That's the thing, is that you can really make a big difference with very, very key small choices. I know for me, since my birthday, I really made it a goal and intention to have a fresh juice, either making it myself or buying it if I'm feeling lazy that day. And, I have found that it makes all the difference with my supplements that I choose to take. I know that we do have them here at the store, but also you can go out and make, get yourself a juicer.
Yep.
And the celeries, the cucumbers, it doesn't have to be expensive.
Yeah.
Start small if you can't afford it, even if it's like maybe 3 ingredients.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, you will wake up differently the next day.
Mix in some Berk Superfoods.
You will make different decisions, key decisions. And the more of us that are plugged into the true matrix, the real Gaian, galactic matrix, versus this weird transhumanism kind of, controlled setup that they're creating and lynching around us on a greater and greater level every day. Like, these are key little choices that you can make daily.
Yeah.
Will make a difference.
Baby steps. My wife was bit by a brown recluse spider. And she's been pretty much out of the game for a while now, like 3.5 weeks, and it's affected her pretty bad. We thought she may have had like a staph infection, but I think she beat that off. Now she's just dealing with a lot of the reaction from the spider bites, suppressed her immune system, and it's kind of been just inching along. She's been ill. She's been slightly getting better, but she started a raw food diet, a raw food juice fast, and in the 2 days that she's done that, she's gotten so much better, more better than the slow progression of getting back to good health over the past 3 weeks. But then she started the raw food diet, and boom, it kicked it into high gear. So it's definitely, if you're not going to do it permanently, give yourself a good week on raw food or juice only, and it'll be completely different. Same thing with gluten-free. I always say gluten-free, and I'm just like, they're either like, oh wow, that's great, good for you, or they're like, gluten-free, what a loser, what a dork, that's fake, blah blah blah. But I just take this challenge. Take this challenge, cut gluten for 1 month, and then add it back to your diet and see how it makes you feel. You'll be surprised.
One thing I do want to make sure to stress, though, is that if you're new to this world, then you want to make sure that you understand usually about day 3, day 4, you may have a little bit of a detox, and be ready for that. Get yourself
grumpy too.
Well, you can be grumpy, maybe have a little extra anger or frustration, but that's because often it's the trash that's coming up to come out. So just be ready for that. See it for what it is. Drink a lot of extra water. Go lie down. Maybe get yourself to a sauna. Do some skin scrubbing. All that kind of stuff is going to assist in the process of clearing out that trash. So, just be aware of that as you move through your process of getting to a healthier level of sovereignty for yourself.
And we are coming back with excuse me.
I think you need a detox, Leland.
Healthy Body Challenge.
These computers need to be all reset. But we will be back with Be Brave Radio in the second hour after this short news break and message from our sponsors. And also, please go to LogosRadioNetwork.com and partake in the Logos Radio Network fundraiser. I'm Leland Freeman.
Do it. I'm Barack Obama.
I'm Michelle.
And we'll be back after this short break.
Down.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Be Brave Radio, also known as BBR, also known as Elizabeth can't hear us in the headphones.
Hello?
She's signaling.
Hello.
But we can hear her. So this is the Be Brave Radio Show every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. here on Logos Radio Network. Check out logosradionetwork.com if you want to check out some other great shows. And she's now back in the oral range of listening.
Whoa.
Aural, A-U-R-A-L.
I just got an aural blast.
That's right.
Sonic.
So we were chatting about health stuff right before we went to break, and we wanted to kind of pick up on that theme and talk about some of the differences between Western allopathic medicine and natural medicine, whether it's Eastern or whether it's just herbs or supplements or dietary nutritional changes, yoga, meditation, qigong, all this stuff. There's all sorts of alternatives to puncturing yourself, to intervention, to taking pharmaceuticals. And my personal experience with that over the past, 6 or 7 years has just been absolutely phenomenal. The first major experience I had was curing a really serious throat infection that had me grounded to the point where anytime I lifted my body up off to the couch, I was in extreme, excruciating pain. It wasn't just a normal run-of-the-mill cold or sinus infection. This was like serious chest and lung issues. And I nebulized with colloidal silver and food-grade hydrogen peroxide and knocked that sucker out that very evening. And I was on the verge of having to go to the hospital. But that was inspired by our naturopath, Dr. Matthew Buckley, whom we've since seen for the past 5 or 6 years. He's seen our children, been our primary care provider. And it's absolutely amazing. Now, every time we actually do have to interface with Western medicine, once was because one of our family members had Lyme disease, and the most recent time was because we decided to go to the hospital for Kat because her condition was worsening, and primarily we wanted to do a blood test, and then if it did come back as some sort of infection like staph, we wanted to get prescribed some antibiotics. Now, the first time with the Lyme disease, our naturopath had already diagnosed it through different techniques and energy, and mainly just through intuition, really, because he's a healer. He can just tell a lot of that stuff. And we went to the doctor at one of these minute clinics, which is a big mistake, and the woman was like our age, younger than Kat, and Kat knew so much more on the subject of Lyme disease than she did. This lady was a complete ignoramus, and they still billed us for like $125. Then after that, we went to the emergency room at St. David's. This was probably like 2 weeks ago. And again, another MD comes out, a young woman, and Kat knew way more on the subject than she did.
Are these MDs or these
These are MDs. These are MDs. These are people that go through school, that gone through all the clinics, the time that they spent shadowing and stuff. This is like a decade of education, and my wife knows more from 2 weeks worth of research.
Here's the sad thing. It's become incredibly political in the medical industry. I mean, notice I use the term industry. Yeah. All the good doctors are being forced out one way or another, whether they're being completely ostracized, made criminals, end up dead. With my father, it's all the above.
Well, yeah, recently too.
And the fact is that most of these MDs, they have to kick back to pharmaceutical companies in order to get any type of referrals, and they don't care about treating the patient anymore. They are about practicing the system.
Well, and they're getting your name on a list that gets them one step closer to that free vacation or the free lunch with the hottie that the pharmaceutical company sends along to push the recent the newest drug.
And they have huge lobbying agencies. The American Medical Agency, Texas. There's the Texas Medical Association. I mean, it's just the AMA, the TMA.
It's a fraud. It's like a factory too. These hospitals, especially the emergency room. I mean, understandably so. There's like not a personal touch to it. They just shuffle you through, and really you're like a product or a commodity rather than a human being. Yeah, it's funny, all their values and mission statements say the complete opposite, but the actual experience of it all.
They have to pay for their marble lobbies somehow.
Look, at the end of the day,
their gold-plated bathrooms somehow, right?
At the end of the day, there is no money in the cure.
No,
it's that simple.
Yeah. They get you on the comeback.
My father invented this device back in the late 70s, which would have been a permanent treatment for heart disease. It massaged the heart muscle back to health. It didn't get past the patent stage.
Not.
It never got prototyped.
No, because here's the thing. They want to get you, into the little system, the little robot system where they're going to get you a drug, and then that drug creates another issue. So yes, it will cover up. It never actually cures or heals the thing that you had the challenge with. What it does is it just suppresses it. Yeah. So it's like you're driving around in a car and you run out of gas, or you're about to run out of gas, and the little light turns on that says, "Oh, warning, you are, put more gas in." What they're doing is that they're taking out the alarm. They're taking out that little light. They're not actually putting any gas into the car. Mm-hmm. Therefore, at least from what I understand from Chinese medicine and being an herbalist, is that what happens is that when you suppress the symptom that you're trying to get rid of or clean up, it actually goes to a deeper area in the body, which then is actually more dangerous for you in the long run. The whole point is that our bodies are so amazing, and usually the first warning that shows up will be from a light level. Often, usually, we'll see it in the skin, for example. If you suppress it and you put all kinds of chemicals on to stop that warning, then you'll start having it show up in odder places like your hormones, your endocrine system, your liver, and then there's deeper, harder to handle issues there.
Yeah, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a big gushing wound. Now, there is a place for hospitals in this allopathic medicine, this Western interventionist medicine, and that's when it comes to trauma or when it comes to broken bones. For example, our son,
diagnostics
a series of unfortunate events, but our son broke his leg recently, and the hospital that we went to, besides all the intrusive questions, thinking that, assuming that we may have abused him or something, they asked us to tell the story repeatedly over and over and over and over. And each time we said, well, we didn't see it, but our daughter did, and then our 4-year-old would tell the story. So we would have been really clever to coax her into line for us. But yeah, they have like social workers that are just trolling through, and we were worried about the fact that our kids don't have socials, but they didn't even bat an eye when we referenced that. But we did have really good care at Dell Children's Hospital, and they put the cast on our son and healed him right up. So you can kind of tell there's a time and a place for these doctors. And back in the day, before, it always goes back to the Rockefellers, before the Rockefeller Foundation funded hundreds of millions of dollars to promulgate Western medical schools and to expand allopathic medicine in the United States, each one of the hospitals used to have a naturopathic wing that was based on herbal remedies, Eastern medicine, and nutrition, and then they had an allopathic wing. And you would come in for treatment and for healing to the naturopathic, and if you needed surgery or if there was some sort of trauma, you would go to the Western. But after the Rockefellers, I don't know if it was the 30s or 40s, started pumping hundreds of millions of dollars, which was billions of dollars back then, into these, they do like trickle down, where they mess with the heights, the commanding heights of different institutions, and it trickles down to make institutional change, cultural change, really. They did that over the decades.
And they did that with the universities, too. That's why, that's why you have the medical industrial complex, and then you have the educational industrial complex. They're all pro-big government, because that's what they become dependent on, all that all the tax dollars coming in.
And it's levels and layers of programming and indoctrination. From my understanding in the medical school, at least from my friends who have gone the more allopathic route, is that there really isn't a lot of training in nutrition anymore.
No.
There isn't a lot of training in understanding, the nature connection. I know that for me, it really hit home when, my mom's been in an awful lot of pain around arthritis. And as an herbalist, I have done a lot of research around certain subjects, and I found and spent many, many hours researching her exact situation. And I found her a Chinese supplement that's been around for thousands of years. Those supplements that have lasted that long, exist for a reason, and they're extremely safe and double directive, and they're like superfoods, at least at the tonic level. There are more medicinal herbs as well, but that's another conversation. But when it's tonic level herbs, for me, I found that for my mom. I sent that to my mom saying, Mom, this is going to assist you. It may not completely, for all the years of harm that the person has done to their body, it may not completely take care of the issue, but at least it's going to turn the dial of pain down, right? So here's what happened. She took the supplement to her doctor. And the doctor looked at it and he said, forgive me, because I have such high, insurance premiums, and I have to pay so much money, and I don't actually know about this actual supplement. I can't tell you to take it. And therefore, my mom actually sent me back the formula that would have alleviated her pain and said, I'm so sorry, I just can't take this. And it's like handing somebody the Holy Grail. I mean, how crazy! Like in a world gone mad, you guys. Like what is this?
Well, look what happened with.
It's so tragic.
Well, look what happened with Gary, who I co-host About Your Health with, and when he got sick a couple years ago, he went to I think it might have been St. David's, and they're saying, "Oh, Mr. Hanna, we need to put you on chemotherapy. You got cancer." And he's like, "I don't have cancer. I have cysts on my liver." And the radiologist even told me he had cysts on his liver, and everyone's like saying, "Oh, you need to go get your biopsies, this and that."
Got to get you in the system.
And so I finally got the biopsies. He doesn't have cancer. It was cysts, but they wanted to pump him through a chemotherapy. He said he was going to die in like 2 days if he didn't get chemotherapy. That was 2 years ago. He's been doing the colloidal silver nebulizer through his lungs. He's been ingesting his miracle healing clay. He's been doing a few other things.
Well, I think the greatest tragedy that I know that I experienced when I was working full-time as an herbalist, it was many years ago when I was in Santa Monica, and we'd get people calling in where, they'd be terminal, and they would have done all the chemotherapy and the radiation, and at that point there was nothing we could do for them. That was what was so upsetting, is that if they contacted us in the beginning, when they were first starting their road of maybe handling cancer or looking for natural ways of assisting themselves, we have a much, there's systems that are thousands of years old, at least within Chinese medicine, that absolutely can assist, on somebody's journey, on that healing journey. But if they've done all this ravaging, detrimental work on their systems that's, destroyed their immune systems.
Chemo is basically a poison.
There's not much we can do for them at that point. And it's so tragic, and when they come to us saying, please help us, and it's like, well, where were you? Where were you with us years ago? This is a journey where you should be every day working on what foods are you eating? What's your diet? Are you exercising? Where's your mind at? Where's your stress at?
When the cancer relapses, you got to think about what the tumor was initially. The tumor initially is non-cancerous material that's lumped in with the cancerous cells. So when you do the chemotherapy and the radiation, the tumor shrinks. You're just killing off the non-cancerous material. So when it comes back, it is largely cancer cells that come back. And that's basically what kills you, more or less.
I just want to plug our naturopathic doctor who's absolutely amazing. He's a healer, and he's been working with my family for quite some time. His name's Dr. Matthew Buckley. His website is Kinsey Mind Body, KINSEI mindbody.com. And just the other day, we had a woman come in that thought she may have had Lyme disease. She was diagnosed with Parkinson's. She'd been to natural doctors and MDs. They weren't able to do anything for her. And I gave her Dr. Buckley's contact info, and she called me back like 3 days later and just felt so blessed to have gone to him. So that's one of the moments. Things are really hard. It's hard to run this damn store. Harlan would probably tell you, but it's moments like that make it all the more worthwhile. So come on into the store and you can chat with us about all sorts of great stuff. We don't only sell great books, but we also have natural health products. We'll be right back on the other side of this break.
Cool.
This is the Logos Radio Network.
And welcome back to Be Brave Radio on this March 12th, 2016, brought to you by Brave New Books, Hill Country Home Improvement, Burke's Superfoods, Nature's Pure Organics, and Cabo Bob's Burritos, with 2 locations in Austin, Texas on Ben White and the North Drag, that they cook up these big burritos made with natural ingredients. They even freshly make the tortillas right in front of you and have these sugary sodas. They're just absolutely amazing. Have no high fructose corn syrup there. Cabo Bob's Burritos, 2 locations in Austin, Texas on Ben White and the North Drag. Now, let's talk about the free-for-all, knockdown, drag-out punching that is happening at the Trump rallies and how it...
Well, Chicago last night. Come on, there's a point there. There's, Chicago in itself is a whole subject.
Yeah, I mean, look at the 1968 Democrat convention, the fact that they're known as the Chicago political machine for a reason, because they are incredibly corrupt. I think probably even more corrupt than the Washington Beltway.
And they have the Guantanamo black site where they've been housing people.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
American citizens
memory.
And protesters.
Oh yeah, Chicago is a mayor's nest. Yeah, so
and
help
Rahm
us.
Emanuel.
So and what is it? Rahm Emanuel never let a good crisis go to waste. I mean,
the fact if you look at Chicago and you look at New York City, they turned their states from red states to blue states just with their population center alone being all part of this.
It is a beautiful city, though, if you visit it. There's a lot of arts and culture there, but it is a mafia-run hellhole at the end of the day.
Well, think about it. It's beautiful because they put the front up. If you look at the real Chicago, it's no better than Detroit. Think about it.
A lot of homeless people.
Well, it's a mess.
So tell us what happened,
Yeah, what
Leland.
happened, Leland?
Well, apparently there was a bunch of organized protesters that tried to storm the stage.
The word is organized.
Oh, they stormed.
And Trump decided because of safety concerns, to unilaterally cancel the event. And the fact the police go like, "Oh, you guys should have went on. There wasn't going to be an issue." I'm like, "Oh no." Then it would have been blamed on Trump. It's like, no, you
shut
just
it down.
Yeah, Trump actually unilaterally shut down for the.
Well, the protesters shut it down.
Well, the protesters
caused the shutdown.
But Trump decided not to have it because he didn't want to have
violence.
An issue where people would get seriously hurt or people charge at him and try to stab him or whatnot.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I mean, I saw the videos, and if you look at the people in the protests, it was La Raza and Black Lives Matter, and
there's Bernie Sanders voters. Look, here's the thing.
Tell it.
Look, there's so many levels of subtext here that we really do need to be made aware of, and there are all kinds of agendas and narratives at play. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people falling into being what's called a useful idiot. Do not become the very thing that you are fighting against, people. Bernie Sanders, Trump, whoever you're for, whatever your paradigm belief system wants to go for, understand that they are both products of what it is that we've been experiencing over the last several years. Think back, please, to what happened about a week ago over on a little posh island in Georgia. 52 techies and Democrats and Republicans, big spenders of the donor elite, got together deliberately to quote unquote not understand Trump, but how to stop Trump. That is a direct quote. Now think about what do you do when you're both funding Move On and you're funding Black Lives Matter. Hello, who is George Soros? If you do not know who he is, you want to find out. This is a massive billionaire who has absolutely been behind, the devaluation of currencies, the endings of governments. I mean, this guy, be careful that you think you know what it is that you're standing for. Look deeper. Cui bono, who benefits?
And look
follow the money.
And look at history. All these violent revolutions always end up with tyrannical regimes. If you look at the fall of the czars, if you look at the fall of Batista,
the American Revolution.
Yes.
The Arab Springs. look who's funding these, and look at what the aftermath is. You have tyrannical, totalitarian regimes that took over, that take away your freedom. Yeah, I mean, it's just, even if you look at Occupy, the fact that all the Occupy camps got raided because everyone started to realize, wait, who's actually funding us? Oh, it's Soros.
MoveOn came on into the Democrat Party.
But so much for intolerance. I mean, here's this thing where these people are showing up to fight against, obviously, look, there are issues in all the camps. It's not okay to be physically violent towards anybody. It's not okay to push that kind of agenda, what have you. But do not show up and say, hey, I'm all for diversity until I disagree.
Lame.
I mean, oops, no, but
I understand.
But if you look at the fact that Trump has been also targeted on this, they tried to burn down his high-rise in Chicago about a month ago.
Bill Ayers, anybody?
Founding member of the Weather Underground that set off bombs in the nation's capital.
Loves Obama.
Let's give a little backstory of Bill Ayers. So he's a founding member of the Weather Underground, the organization that set off bombs in the nation's capital in the 70s, and the fact that he got basically pardoned, acquitted, whatnot, clean criminal record because his daddy ran Commonwealth Edison, the Chicago power company.
Yeah, but look, here's what's going on. They are pushing for a race war because we are weaker when we are divided. It's really that simple. Are you people? Are we going to fall for this? Because at the end of the day, this is what is being pushed.
There are a lot of authentic roots for these movements.
Yes,
people are rightfully angry, justly angry about what happened in Ferguson, and regardless of all the debates of who started what or big tough guy beating up on a cop, and it continuously happens, police brutality. But this angst is then manipulated and leveraged for the benefit of these social engineers at the end of the day. And one thing I want to say about this tactic that the left seems to be employing, whether it's shutting events down through disruption, or we see Black Lives Matter even disrupted Bernie Sanders at that rally recently, and Bernie Sanders was such a coward to let someone just take over his event. He's a U.S. senator. Show a little bit of balls there, Bernie. But then we see shutting down the highways. Now we see shutting down these political events. Now, I understand that people are upset, especially people left and progressives are upset with Donald Trump because a lot of his stuff is xenophobic and very scary, dangerous, and has fascist tendencies. It's okay to be upset with him. But this tactic of ending political discourse and interrupting meetings is just such bad form. And I think it's a dangerous path that we're going on.
What they hate.
That's right.
I mean, they're projecting.
The means are inconsistent with their ends, unless their end is total control, socialism.
And it's taking a giant dump on the First Amendment.
And here's what they're also not understanding, which is the Newtonian physics of like every action causes a reaction. Guess what? You've got more galvanization towards Trump. There are going to be more people voting for Trump because of what you have just done.
The sympathy vote.
It'll excite the base.
Hello.
It's bad news. I think so. That's happening. We can talk about it. We can analyze it. What can we do about it? There's not much we can do to try to influence Black Lives Matter and encourage them not to be so vitriolic and this whole anti-establishment left
thing.
See
where they're being programmed and controlled.
We can share that, and more importantly, we can hold ourselves in high regard, and we can't stoop to that level. We can just make sure, libertarians, patriots that are listening, you may not agree with this progressive communist stuff, but hold yourself to a higher standard and allow the discourse. Create a safe space for this discourse. If you're an open carrier, stand there and allow this, let people know that you're not going to interrupt the speech. I love it when when a bunch of the Arab Spring stuff was going on, and there was Christians that were being persecuted. There's pictures coming out of the Middle East of a big ring of Muslims circling a group of Christians, and then vice versa, Christians circling the Muslims while they engage in their prayer.
Standing for their right.
That's what it's all
freedom.
about. It's all about unity and compassion and coming together. So while this is all happening, let's share with it. Let's let people know that they may be manipulated, but the best thing we could do is lead by example.
Well, a good thing to look at is just analyze what happened with the Occupy movement. It's like where you had this original organic gathering, but then it got co-opted by Soros, and then they had this big command control thing, but then people started to realize that it was being co-opted, and as soon as it was getting co-opted and started to evolve back into this organic thing, that's when they all got raided. So you have to look at and see, if you look at a lot of these protests where they allow damage to happen, it shows you that the organizers, the funders of this, like the Soros types, they want this to happen because they want to divide people.
Well, and then you've got Bernie saying, he's fueling it even further in his own part because he's coming out and saying things like, white people don't know what it's like to be poor.
What a dork, man.
I mean, my God,
he's worth $600,000.
What?
Under his own definition, he is the 1%.
Well, of course,
because the 1% is anyone worth more than $250,000.
But then all my friends who swore that they would never be fooled again after someone like Obama are all the way being like, we love Bernie, we love Bernie. It's like, dudes, are you all such that
frying pan into the fire? Good luck with that.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
I just can't believe how people are. I wonder if this has something to do with all the psychotropics and all the stuff that they're putting in the food supply,
psychotronics,
and the water. I mean, it literally is becoming idiocracy. Camacho 2016. And we'll pick this up after this short break here on the Logos Radio Network. This is Be Brave Radio. I'm Leland Freeman.
I'm Elizabeth.
I'm Donald Trump.
And we'll be back right after.
You've probably heard of WikiLeaks, the website that's released lots of government documents. But have you heard of the granddaddy of leaks, Cryptome.org? I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll be back with more about how Cryptome holds governments and corporations accountable.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This public service announcement is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
The website Cryptome.org has been archiving leaked and whistleblower documents for over 14 years to keep governments and big business in check. Back in 2003, the site's owner, John Young, came to my rescue when my SpyChips co-author and I dug up explosive confidential documents. They told how businesses like Procter & Gamble planned to pacify consumers who would be outraged by RFID, a new tracking technology. The information was so scandalous, we were sure it would disappear the moment someone found out it was publicly accessible. We were also worried we might be accused of hacking. Cryptome came to our rescue, and the documents are still mirrored there today. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht. More news and information at CatherineAlbrecht.com.
Counts are based on full roof replacement. May not actually be kidding about chemtrails.
Live Free Speech Radio, LogosRadioNetwork.com.
Then when I get back on my feet again, I can climb so high that I won't feel low. And I keep on praying, baby. Then when I get where I am going, you'll be showing me a blue sky road.
And welcome back to Be Brave Radio on this March 12th, 2016. This hour we have been talking about political protesting and how they're actually being funded by giant globalists such as George Soros to get their ends to the means, and that everyone is being played off as a pawn, a useful idiot, and that people should start waking up and using their brains. And let's just look at the apples and oranges or apples and apples type situations with press coverage of people being persecuted by the government. You have the Black Lives Matters people getting a ton of press.
Yeah, but how about Lavoy Finicum? Because if you've got issues about Eric Garner and Michael Brown and the paid protesters at Ferguson and all the shenanigans going on there, which is absolutely valid. However, Lavoy Finicum and what happened to him and the outright murder of him and the video that's just come out recently that was filmed by one of the ladies in the van that absolutely shows that he was murdered. That's the same issue, people. And yet, if you're not up in arms about that, if you're not seeing how wrong that is, and yet you're all about, the Eric Garners of this world, sorry, you've got to find. I find offense in all of them, being harmed.
Well, the fact that they're trying to craft a narrative. I mean, remember after Lavoy Finicum got murdered by the agents, the FBI was quick to release a video of the drone footage with no audio of any of the radio calls or anything.
And they cropped the footage.
And they cropped the footage and they blacked out all the telemetry data and whatnot. And that just this past week, that footage from inside the van, which I'm absolutely surprised they were able to save, because knowing the FBI, I'm surprised they didn't put an EMP on the van and just wipe every computer out in there.
Well, you can see that he was fired at before he even got out of the car. You can absolutely see that he was shot in the back 3 times, and that he did not have a gun on him. He had actually left it back at the refuge. They had placed a gun on him that was not his, that had been reported as stolen 2 years beforehand. He absolutely had his hands up. People, we saw it in the footage. It's right there, and they murdered him.
It was basically Ruby Ridge in the back. It was Ruby Ridge all over again, pretty much.
Well, and also there was something like at least 7 shots that we know of, and 1 to the face. Where's the outrage there, huh? Oh, that's right. It doesn't fulfill a narrative.
Well, people were actually happy that he died. All these weird lefties were celebrating. They're like, I hope they go in and bomb the Oregon people. And it's like, man, give me a break. Where's your compassion? It's so weird how people get so heated up and they don't even, they leave their humanity behind.
They leave their humanity behind.
In this weird primal state. It's very you can manipulate them really easily.
It's these blind spots where it's like they're all about, safe spaces and diversity and let's have tolerance, until it's something that they completely don't have an understanding
for. It's the herd mentality. The fact that the guy was standing up for individualism and property rights. Something I guess is evil and is now
That's like a 1%er kind of thing.
Or you're viewed as
racist.
Or you want to have your own control over your own body. You're a terrorist.
The BLM can handle it all for the benefit of the masses.
Yeah, well, guess what? The BLM is stealing the land because of Agenda 21, and they're literally
selling
stealing
uranium and like all sorts of
they're selling the mining rights,
stuff?
absolutely, to, away to like Russia and China and all these places.
And,
Harry Reid happens to be right next to the Bundys. What a surprise!
And what about
there's so much going on?
And what about the initiative to push everyone to the cities and having basically top down
Agenda 21?
Well, besides Agenda, Agenda 21, where it's not only these cities where everything is command control, and you have these police states. So the fact is that when I went to go to Fat Sal's the other night, I saw 2 people get pulled over for no good reason on Guadalupe.
It's easier to control people when they're in the cities compared to being out on the land. And there was a perfect example in Eamon Bundy's first little call to arms on Facebook, where he called people to go occupy the Oregon thing, and it was basically his call to action, which I shared with a little message supporting his efforts and stuff. And then later on, I was like paranoid, like only 200 people shared. Is that the list of people they're going to round up? And they started rounding people up, and I was like, uh-oh. But at the end of the day, to hell with them, free speech and whatever. But in that little message, he wrote that the people in Oregon, in the county, was the county again? County that all this was happening? Whatever. The county where the wildlife refuge was.
Oregon, but I mean, I don't know the
Oregon
county.
It's
going to
come to me. They used to be the most prosperous county in Oregon until the BLM came into town and started manipulating things. Now it's the poorest county in Oregon, and everyone's been forced to move out and abandon their way of life. And it just was textbook Agenda 21.
Yeah.
They're making it harder for people to live in rural areas and weeding them into the cities. And it's disgusting. It's really sad. Like Lavoy Finicum, I believe, if the Liberty people are the ones that end up writing history books, and we will write our own history books, whether it's taught in, hopefully public schools will be gone, but I'll be teaching my kids proper history. He's a hero. And I think it's strange and it's unfortunate that it had the opportunity to be something bigger. I don't think it was the right spark. It wasn't the Lexington and Concord, but I do think that it is disheartening that at the end of the day, what happened because of this Oregon National Refuge standoff, it kind of just shows a bit of weakness on the side of the patriots, the militia, the 3%ers, so to speak, because here we have one of the people being gunned down, and at the end of the day, they went and rounded up a bunch of people from the original Bundy standoff, and now Eamon, Cliven Bundy, Lavoy Finicum's dead. A lot of the organizers are this guy Pete Santilli, whether he's an FBI narc or not, he's in jail, and it's like,
and Pete Santilli was an alternative journalist as well. Well, I should say actual history report journalist.
And they're up for treason or something now, aren't they?
It's Mulher National Wildlife Refuge in Harney
County.
And the other interesting thing too is now they want to prosecute people who don't believe in climate change.
I know. God. I mean,
when's the stand going to be? Where like this, when is it going to be? If it wasn't then, when will it be? What's going to inspire everyone to take up arms? Like, is that even something that is
But people are
beneficial?
So calcified. They've got all the fluoride, all the poisons, all the GMOs, that they're all apathetic and docile.
But not even them. Like, they're not even part of the debate, because there's always going to be this mass of people that do nothing. It's a small group of people, whether it's the social engineers, the patriots, the anarchists, the Ron Paul people, that actually make change. So forget about them. But like, when is the Patriots going to, what's going to be the Patriot cause? Is there ever going to be one? Is this a demonstration that the federal government is all powerful and people can't come together to take up arms and defend their brethren? Like, I don't know. It's kind of
there's a reason why the First Amendment was the First Amendment chosen. Freedom of speech, freedom of thought, and freedom of the press. That is
petition your government for redress of grievance.
And that is the first thing they picked. Not even the second, which is the right to bear arms. That protects the first. But the fact is that the right of free speech, it was viewed by the Founding Fathers. I know you have your disagreements with the Founding Fathers, but that was viewed as the most important thing to put at the top of the Bill of Rights.
Now watch me pass the Alien and Sedition Act, making it illegal to criticize the president shortly after we ratified the Bill of Rights. That's my Founding Fathers thing. It's total hypocrisy.
Here's the issue. At the end of the day, it comes down to literally a war between the empaths and the psychopaths. And the problem here, the challenge is that we as empaths are, we don't like harming others. We have that circuitry. It's the gift and it's the curse. Whereas the psychopaths don't care. So they will continue to go after their agenda and push as far as they want and as they can, and they'll get off on it. And they are the ones who will, push for the control. And that's why we haven't done anything about it. We don't want to harm other people.
Victory for them? I don't know. I mean, I'm a for nonviolent resistance, but like, I think we need to be more creative than just occupying a federal building. Like, it needs to be something different, something more decentralized. I'd love for the Patriot 3%ers to adopt some decentralized peer-to-peer kind of Bitcoin style thinking and maybe try to go about things in that regard.
Well, and also from the inside out, I wish we had, as a mass populace, the balls that like more people like Don Zimmerman. He just posted this on his Twitter 2 hours ago. Last night at the Trump rally, we once again witnessed radical progressive jihad in the successful violent repression of free assembly. Jihad stands for judgmental, intolerant, hate, angry, divisive, which generally describe those protesters. This quote-unquote success of repression of free speech will be attempted elsewhere. We see even more jihad, all in the name of love, tolerance,
they call it love, huh?
unity, of course.
Yeah, but imagine if if Trump supporters went to Bernie Sanders rallies and flipped out, they wouldn't be called protesters. The media would be calling them terrorists. Now, see, it's all about the words that are being used. If it's the Bernie Sanders supporters, well, then they're doing it in the name of love. They're acting out against Trump, who the mainstream is completely character assassinating from so many different angles, spending millions of dollars right now to do so.
And Don Zimmerman, one of the few people elected to the Austin City Council that tells it like it is and is actually fighting for his constituents. What a thought, is constantly lambasted in the media left and right, especially the Austin Chronicle. But he's actually one of the good guys, and we need more people like Don Zimmerman. Anyway, we've got more Be Brave Radio coming up after this short break. And also, please head on over to LogosRadioNetwork.com to take part in the Logos Radio fundraiser to help keep this network on the air. We'll be right back after this. Back to Be Brave Radio here on the Logos Radio Network, brought to you by Brave New Books, Hill Country Home Improvement, Nature's Pure Organics, Burke Superfoods, and Cabo Bob's Burritos. For this segment, we will be joined by Holland Vanden Nieuwenhof to talk about the very strange death of Aubrey McClendon, the founder of Chesapeake Energy. Holland, take it away.
Thank you for having me on.
Who are you, by the way? Let's back it up a little bit. Tell us a bit about yourself.
My name is Holland Vanden Nieuwenhof, and for those of you who are on the scene may know me from when I wrote and produced a documentary about the Oklahoma City bombing entitled A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City, 1995, which was released in 2012, which was a detailed expose of the lies behind the official story of the Oklahoma City bombing, which won a few film awards and was featured on InfoWars for a time. So that is those are my credentials and my connection to Oklahoma City. Although I reside here in Austin right now, and I work at Brave New Books, the finest establishment of its kind in the world, only one of its kind. I still obviously maintain my information pipeline to Oklahoma and take an interest in things there, especially when they come up on the national level, and especially when they involve perhaps nefariousness in the death on March 2nd of Aubrey McClendon, founder of Chesapeake Energy and the prime general in the shale revolution, which turned fracking into a viable commodity once President Bush eased restrictions on the Clean Water Act soon after taking office, making fracking profitable. We saw the largest expansion of energy in perhaps 100 years. 10 days ago on March 2nd, Aubrey McClendon, the day after being indicted for price fixing, apparently drove his car, a natural gas vehicle, as it were, over 100 miles an hour into a concrete wall and was killed or killed himself by his own hand or perhaps others.
Now let's look at the...
Okay, so the report is, and I'm going to quote it, quote unquote, he pretty much drove straight into a wall, Balderrama said, the reporter. The information out there at the scene is that he went left of center, went through a grassy area right before colliding into the embankment. There was plenty of opportunity for him to correct and get back on the roadway, and that just didn't occur. I'm sorry, I completely immediately thought of Michael Hastings, the Rolling Stone reporter who was taken out a couple years before through kind of similar events, yes, with these smart cars that can absolutely be hacked. You can literally pull up right now on YouTube DARPA coming right out and talking about how they can easily hack those cars.
Pretty much all cars now, because they don't use throttle cables; they use electronic throttles now. But let's look at his history, the history of the person. He was a billionaire, correct?
Aubrey McClendon was oil royalty. He was the grandson of Kerr McGee, who was an insider in the LBJ administration and the prime oil man and former governor of Oklahoma. He started the fracking revolution in the 1990s. It didn't become profitable until the clean water restrictions.
And he owned a bunch of exotic cars, correct?
Well, he owned a lot of things. He owned one of the largest wine collections in the world. He owned a large portion of Oklahoma City real estate. I know this for a fact. A lot of people made a lot of money off selling property to Aubrey McClendon. He was actually buying up the northwest portion of the city until his fortunes reversed several years ago, and they had to start selling it off again. And he was cashiered from the company he founded, Chesapeake Energy, for his reckless ways. In fact, he was featured on the cover of Forbes magazine titled "The Reckless Billionaire." He was known for taking risks and usually paying off. This is nothing new.
So that brings up the big question: is why was he driving a $40,000 Tahoe?
Wasn't it like a Dodge?
It was a 2013 Chevy Tahoe. It was a natural gas vehicle. It's a showboat vehicle for natural gas. It wasn't one of his luxury cars, but that vehicle is also tied into the internet. It's very computer controlled, and we look at means motive opportunity. Means is possible. We know that cars can be hacked. DARPA has stated this for a record.
Well, look, at the end of the day, loose lips sink ships.
And we look at motive.
Hello.
Well, the fact is that you look at it that pretty much every GM vehicle for the past 15 years has had OnStar installed standard. They even joked about that in The Sopranos, where the Tony Soprano character goes like, "Yeah, first thing I did when I got the Cadillac was I ripped the OnStar out."
Yeah. So this car was wired in. So we look at means. The means were definitely there to take control of this vehicle. We already know that the media is lying because they're portraying the incident as an accident. Yeah. It wasn't an accident because a man who's indicted doesn't get in a car accident the next day. It was
24 hours in the difference.
At the very least, it was a suicide. But I myself am ruling that out after doing some research on the man of Aubrey McClendon. His activities and communications that morning gave absolutely no indication. Mm-hmm. It was business as usual. Aubrey was not fazed by his indictment. He was planning on fighting it. At the most, if he was found guilty, he was going to have to spend a couple years in Club Fed
and have basically a token fine of what, maybe a couple $1 million, but he's a billionaire. So
it was not going to break him. It was not going to.
And he would have went on the lecture circuit, and whatever he would have been fined, he would have made down the lecture circuit for about 6 months.
He would have been fine, and he knew it. The problem. The motive, perhaps, if this was indeed not an accident or a suicide, was the fact that he stated in his defense when he was indicted that he is the only man in 110 years of the Sherman Act to be indicted for price fixing, meaning he knows other people do it, and he is not going down.
And he
alone.
would pull them down. And what is it? Nothing to see here, folks. Just an energy industry bigwig who was about to enter a federal court battle that could have implicated big oil players at the highest levels.
Billions of dollars. If you think a human life is not worth billions of dollars, you have a lot to
and you wonder why. And you wonder why Hillary has yet to be indicted.
Well, that's it.
And the fact that Andrew Napolitano has gone on the record and said that there has been immunity given out in her case to the guy who installed the server. They want to indict her, but the thing is that she's holding all this baggage over half of Washington's head, at least.
And maybe Obama's.
And maybe even all of Washington. That's why we need to elect an outsider such as Trump NATO, who doesn't have Clinton holding anything over his head. But I'm just really curious what Aubrey McClendon knew.
Well, we can look at the crime scene. We've looked at means, motive, opportunity. Let's look at the departure from SOP, which indicates a conspiracy, if in fact there is one. The police stated that there were no skid marks at the scene of the accident. Well, a picture was released by RedDirtReport.com, which is an Oklahoma-based investigative website, RedDirtReport.com, run by my friend Andrew Griffin, who released a photo that was taken by what appears to be the absolute first person on the scene, before first responders, before bystanders. This
because it's before all the windows blew up from the fire.
Before the windows blew. All the other photos released show the window blowing out, and there are no other vehicles in this picture present. And it also shows two distinct sets of skid marks, very obvious, leading to the scene of the crash and to the vehicle. Now, the question is, were these vehicle skid marks? Well, without being in a crime scene investigator myself or having access to one currently, I don't know. But it is not true that there were no skid marks. There were two distinct sets.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was like he was trying to turn on the emergency brake.
If his car was hacked.
Because if you look at even OnStar's advertisements from 10 years ago, when you say that your car's been stolen, guess what? They advertise, we can stop your car, we can steer it to the side, we can speed it up, slow it down. And so the thing is that if they could do that for quote unquote vehicle theft, couldn't they do that at any given time because the car's always linked up to something?
I'd also like to pass on a strict rumor at this point that I am hearing from Oklahoma City that there's a large contingent of United States Secret Service agents in town who are involved in directly protecting the McClendon family and perhaps investigating something. If this is indeed true, this indicates that they are investigating his possible murder and are protecting the McClendon family from further harm.
Now, it's interesting that you said Secret Service because he was investigated by the FBI and indicted by the FBI.
I'm not sure which investigative agency did it.
But the fact that it's the Secret Service, it says a lot that there's something going on.
It is a rumor at
an
this
internal
point.
strife.
I'm running it down, but apparently they are staying at an establishment in town, and there's a very large contingent, almost 100 of them. 75 was the word given to me. So we're going to see if this is true and if they are indeed involved in this investigation or protection of the Clinton family. Anyways, the fact is that you have a billionaire killed the day after he was indicted, who is basically issuing veiled threats that he's going to blow the whistle on every other billionaire involved in fracking who did the same thing he did.
Right.
And he suddenly ends up dead under mysterious circumstances. He was sending up emails that morning. He was talking to people. He was not distraught. He was not drunk. It was 9:12 in the morning.
What was his relationship with other frackers, such as T. Boone Pickens?
Well, on the face of it, T. Boone Pickens and Aubrey McClendon were business partner. Well, not business partners, but they were in business together at some point. And, they're all part of the same fracking club. But if you're going to betray the fracking club, they're going to terminate with extreme prejudice.
Well, and it makes me think of the BP oil spill situation that occurred several years ago, where I think it was Matthew Simmons went on really stupid idea. He went on the mainstream media and said, "I'm going to blow the whistle. I'm going to tell everything I know. The whole thing is completely screwed up and shady." And then 2 days later, he's dead in his hot tub from a heart attack. Whoops.
Well, you look at all these people that say they're going to whistleblow, whether it's
Don't do that,
Andrew Breitbart, McChrystal, the DC madam, they all end up dead.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the reason these people end up dead is they keep their information secret, and their secret dies with them. That's why it's important to secure
Larry Nichols, get your information out, Larry
securely
Nichols.
And get it out before your secret dies with you. That's happened in the Oklahoma City bombing countless times. In the film, we document the case of Oklahoma City police officer Terry Yakey, who was killed for trying to retrieve evidence related to the bombing. He was a hero at the scene. Anyways, this happens a lot.
Hoppy Heidelberg died shortly after your film came out, too. Was there any... What did he officially die of, but what do you think happened?
There was actually a spate of deaths of witnesses in the bombing after the movie came out. But frankly, believe me, I had full incentive to look into them, and they appear to be natural. And if it was a warning, they didn't advertise it. It was some of the more unusual. Hoppy Heidelberg died from lung cancer, even though he lived out in the middle of the country, he never smoked, and was actually a health nut. But then again, the Oklahoma countryside is contaminated with large amounts of uranium. Thank you, Kerr McGee. And who knows what contaminants were out there. So who knows? If they were killing off witnesses in the bombing, they weren't advertising it after the film. They did kill off other witnesses. Terry Yakey, Glenn Wilburn was killed with injectable cancer, and many other people were killed. As for Hoppy Heidelberg, right now I'm ruling it natural.
Also, for people who want to see any information about the idea of hacking cars, you can literally go onto YouTube and watch DARPA talking about it themselves. Just type in DARPA talks about hacking cars.
Oh, yeah, they hack Priuses.
No, just type in those keywords, and you can literally find them talking all about it.
It is indeed possible.
And this is Be Brave Radio. We'll be back with the third hour after this news break and short commercial break right after this. Stay tuned.